What's up, and welcome back to Opposites Check Podcast. This is Sonia Ramirez, your girl, and I'm sitting next to
Miguel Ramirez.
What's up, everybody? How is your day?
How was your week?
How is your life?
Going.
Woo! I hope you guys are ready for this episode.
I should have saved this.
You should have. You should have.
That's
It's okay. We could use it again.
So today we have a very special guest, somebody that we've known for a really long time. He's one of our friends back when we were actively working in Legal Shield. And since then, he has just taken all the skills and everything that he's learned and just blown up. He's the kind of person that when he walks in, he always lights up the room, right?
Yes, he does.
I mean, he stands out wherever he's at.
Hilarious.
And his mission is to help and inspire others by being himself, sharing his story. And he recently spoke in front of 75,000 people worldwide at a training. So we would love to welcome our great friend, Daniel Phuong.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, now you applause.
Yes. Hey, we can applause all day long.
All podcasts.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, what's up, Daniel? Thanks for being on the show.
Hey. Thanks for having me. This is so exciting. I want to let you guys know that I've been watching your podcast. It's amazing. I love the interaction between the two of you, and it's just so spot on, the connection, the content that you're producing. And so I'm really honored to be invited here. So thank you.
Oh, you're
welcome. Thank you.
I was sharing with Miguel. Well, you and I, whenever we have conversations, and we'll get into this a little later on, but you and I just are spiritually connected. We get into some deep conversations, and we do. Yeah, we'll just start off with a conversation, and next thing you know, it's like an hour's passed.
Yeah,
I know.
And you have this energy about you where you are just full of life and joy and drive. And a lot of people don't know your background. They don't know where you're from, right? They don't know your history.
Yeah.
And so, if you could, where are you at right now? I mean, where are you?
Where in the world is Daniel?
California? Are you in Vegas today? Are you, in Paris? No.
No, right now I'm actually in San Francisco right at the beginning of the pandemic. I relocated from Southern California into Northern California. I'll be here for probably about 3 more years, and then I'm going to exit out of here, out of the United States.
Really?
He's so spontaneous.
Where are you planning on going?
Wherever my future husband is, I will go.
Take notes, listeners. Take notes. No.
Yeah. Nice,
I kind of probably have an idea. He'll be in this hemisphere for now. So I'm leaning into Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just kind of letting spirit kind of guide me at that moment in time. I know that I'm going. I just don't know where and when just yet. So I'm just allowing it open.
How's your Espanol?
Bien.
Bien. Muy bien. He had to think. We caught him off guard. Bien.
All right. We're going to have to work on that.
Yo comprendo mucho, pero no hablo bien.
Okay.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Right?
Heck yeah.
So where are you originally from?
So my family is Chinese Vietnamese. My dad is Chinese. My mom is Chinese Vietnamese. I myself was born in Vietnam and then emigrated here in 1979 by way of boat. So I'm probably one of the last boat people from 79 to 80. That's like just very snippet of like the last facade, the last journey of the boat people.
Yeah. Weren't you telling me you have a friend or somewhere?
Yeah. So I have a friend. I was telling Sonia yesterday. I have a friend of mine from work, a Vietnamese guy, and your English is awesome. His English was not as great, but he was our team lead, and one of those, and I work building helicopters. So to have a guy that doesn't speak that much English and knowing that he came from Vietnam, like one day I was just kind of working and I was just like wondering, like, how did he end up here and being my team lead? Like I was just kind of curious, like, how does that happen? Mm-hmm. So one day I asked him, I was like, Lloyd, hey, how'd you end up here? And he told me a similar story. He said that when he was a kid, the village or wherever he lived, like he would remember like rockets being shot over his house or something like that. And I think it was a similar thing. He got on a boat and went to Cambodia, and then from there he went somewhere else. And ended up here. But did you come with anybody?
Yeah, obviously I was a child at that point in time. I was about 7 years old,
Okay.
and I came with my mom. My mom took me, my brother, and a cousin of mine, which is actually her niece. And she brought all of us over. And then she ended up actually raising 5 kids in America all by herself, a country she didn't know the language, didn't know the culture at all. So 3 of her
Wow.
own kids, a niece and a nephew, leaving her oldest son behind. Because when my mom and dad separated, my dad had um, access to my brother. He actually kidnapped him, and so when we were ready to go on the boat, my brother just didn't make it at all, and so we were separated for almost 30 years
Wow.
Wow.
before. And then my sister actually came to America first, and so when my mom had my sister, she literally gave my sister to her sister, my aunt, and said, "Take my daughter," not knowing if we were actually going to ever reunite again.
Wow.
It's a crazy story.
It is. Recently, I started watching a couple shows, and we saw something, the HBO show Chernobyl,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like crazy to think about when things like that happen, and people just like it's just like drop everything and just
Yeah.
leave. I mean that is something that for a lot of people you can't even imagine having to go through something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to put your lives at risk because obviously going to America by boat, and it wasn't like a yacht, it wasn't a cruise ship that we went on. It was like a fisherman's boat where everyone was just crammed like sardines, and you could only bring whatever was on your body. And so most of the people would actually sew gold bars into their clothing because that was actually a form of currency. And not many people made it. During the voyage, pirates raided our boat, kidnapped some women, killed some men. People died because there was no food and no water. Can you
Wow.
imagine?
Wow.
So you leave, put yourself in a position where like you would rather be placed in a situation where you might potentially die at a chance for freedom than to stay in bondage where you are alive.
Where you
Wow.
have a higher chance
That
of
was the
probably
risk that we
dying.
take. Yeah, you have a higher chance of dying there too, because communism, right?
Wow.
Man, that
So
just hit
you were
me.
going to die there or die here. So might as well go after
Yeah.
that.
Wow. Hey Daniel, so at 7 years old, like do you have recollection of coming over here? Because that's kind of like the age where you start remembering things as
Yeah.
a kid.
So I sort of do. I remember getting on the boat. I remember the voyage a little bit. I remember the storms a little bit, and then a lot of it actually became blurry. And then, so we made it actually to Malaysia, and we were in a refugee camp for almost about 10 months. And so I kind of remember that a little bit. And I think it wasn't because of the fact that I was young that I don't remember. I think that part of my subconscious is actually protecting me and saying,
Yes.
Yep.
do not go back to the trauma.
Wow.
We're not going to show you that at all. Let's just show you what's possible in the future. That's in the past. Leave it in the past.
How did you figure that out? That maybe you don't remember because your brain is protecting you? Because that's something that I've talked to Sonja about,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been a lot of times where we're just like, or like Sonja's told me, like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that part of my childhood, and just kind of thinking about it, I was like, there may be a reason why you don't remember that, and it's like
It's
you
exactly
said,
what
it's
he
because
said.
if you had to process that stuff as a kid, you would go nuts.
Yes.
But
And
Totally.
yeah,
and how I started to peel back the layers was because I felt that some of my trauma was haunting me today. Like there were things I was acting out because of what happened in the past. So I took time to self-process, to self-reflect, to talk to God, to speak to a deeper self, to turn inward in order to heal my younger self so that I can be free from that trauma. And once I was free, I felt so light and so
Yeah.
free. I guess that would be the right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Liberated.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's almost like, it's almost like being in a straight jacket and all of a sudden that straight jacket is cut. But here's the cool thing. It was cut from the inside, not from the outside, because you're the
Yes.
one who's actually cutting it. And then when that straight jacket opens up, all of a sudden your wings and everything just breathes. And so that's what I felt like. And so to answer Miguel's question about how did I know that my brain is protecting me, doing a lot of work. I mean, like every single, past life regression, all this thing, I was trying to do all that work to actually put it into light, address it, and then put it in the past again. And I just can't. I mean, recently, last year, I hired a coach, and he asked me to write down everything that I could remember from childhood, from 0 to 15. Mm-hmm. And there was just things I was just writing and writing. It just couldn't come out. Like it just isn't there at all. And so I'm like, wow, there's a period in my life where I don't know. I don't know.
Wow.
And I'm okay with it now too. Because I think that all of that has allowed me to become who I am, but it doesn't confine me anymore.
Good.
If anything, it actually refined me to become the person I am today, I think.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Because I think you had shared with me just a lot of the things that you have gone through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I look at you. And that's, like your story really of everything that you've gone through is what's going to help people. You sharing your story, your journey, your vulnerability and all of that. Like I feel that, and I've talked to you about this, that your purpose is headed in that direction. And I feel that it's been confirmed to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels great to release myself of like trying to figure out what my purpose is, but actually doing the work. And then along the way, I'm kind of like in alignment with spirit. Like right now, I feel like, oh my God, all of this is leading me to, and I'm open, available, and receptive to whatever spirit's guiding me. And I'm a little bit more in tune to that now than more than ever. Before I was resistant. I'm like, no, not that, because the noises of society, right?
Yes.
This is what you should do. Go to school, get good grades, get the job, da, 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 da. And I'm just like going, but that's not what I want.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, going to school, get the good grades. Yeah. How were you raised? I mean, you're an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, is that what your mom always wanted for you?
Well, you started.
No.
Well, I mean, I'm saying you got here at 7, so that's school age. Like, I mean, coming here from another country on a boat, that's got to be pretty crazy going to school. Like, what do you remember what that was like? What was, or was that blocked out?
The boat ride, like I said, I remember very little of it, and then I more remembered stepping foot in America for the first time.
What was that like?
And so we actually immigrated. We immigrated from Vietnam into Minnesota. So stationed in Malaysia for 10 months, and then finally we were able to get onto the plane because we were sponsored by an American family, a Catholic family. Wow. That says that they were going to be financially responsible for us when we actually came here. And I remember on the plane ride, we were instructed, whatever they say, if it was very nice, the flight attendant, that is, just say yes. But if it didn't sound nice, say no, because that's all the English that we know.
If it doesn't sound nice, say no.
Yeah. And guess what? They were coming and they were just asking. We were like yesing everything. And like, we just got things. And we're like, what? Okay, whatever. But I remember flying over finally when we actually got into the state of Minnesota. We looked out the window and we're like, oh my gosh, wherever we're going, it sure has a lot of salt. It was snow.
Yeah.
But we didn't know because in Vietnam, we don't have snow. We have no idea what that looks like.
Wow.
Like, why does this country have so much salt? It's all white.
That's so crazy.
But when I landed and we got out, it was just like everything was so opulent because, we came from a society that wasn't as fortunate. Even though my family and my dad's family were actually pretty well off, it was still a pretty rural, I wouldn't say rural, but it was a pretty poor place to come from. But everything was just like, oh my gosh, the street lights and the cars were amazing. Everything was just magical at that point in time. Imagine a kid in a candy store.
Yeah,
I was a kid in like the big world store. It's like things were just cool. So I remember that.
Yeah, I recently showed Sonia a video. There's one that I saw of this Cuban guy. I mean, he must have been like in his 30s or 40s or something like that. And no, I think he was probably in his 40s or later. But his family, he came here to the United States and his family took him to a Costco. This dude almost started crying at Costco. Yeah, like he almost started crying. He was like, $15 for these shoes, $15, and it was just. I mean, it's crazy, and it a lot of times I think, especially in this country, we forget
yes
that
we do.
Everywhere in the world isn't like this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We take for granted that, when you turn on the faucet, there's hot water.
Yeah. And
Take for granted when you flip the switch that there's light.
That's right.
And most of society don't even have potable drinking water. I mean, they had to go down, they have to walk miles and miles just to retrieve water that they can drink. And so I constantly, coming from an immigrant perspective, I remind myself where I came from.
Yeah.
And I never forget. I never do, because we were raised pretty poor. I mean, man, imagine a mom, 5 kids. We didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
We had each other, though. We had each other.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, you said you remember when you first stepped in the United States. Do you remember what you were thinking, or what was going through your head? I mean, you were 7, so.
Yeah, I just remember, like, wherever this is, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, life
was optimism.
is about to life is about to be just badass.
That's awesome.
So I could see you being
that everything was possible. Like, anything that I ever wanted to do, and anything that whoever I want to be was completely available in the land of the free.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Were you a straight A student?
I was.
Were you?
So my mom, at a very young age, groomed me to be a doctor. So, because that's a very typical Asian thing, right? We had 3 choices. We either had to be a doctor, or a loser.
What?
And so, it's just like
Joe Coy. Joe Coy talks about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was completely brainwashed into becoming a doctor, and that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Miguel and Sonja, I felt like it was my obligation to fulfill my mom's need and requirement for validation as a mom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to pay, I felt like I was actually indebted to her sacrifice, because she gave up everything.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
In Vietnam. And I was a pretty good kid overall, compared to my siblings and my cousins. And so my mom was like, this is the golden child. Like,
this is the one.
Boom. You're chosen, right? You have no choice. And because of that, I succeeded academically. I was completely straight A student. I never missed a single day of school.
Wow.
So by the time that I actually graduated high school, I had this giant plaque of perfect attendance throughout my whole entire school system in Minnesota.
Wow.
Because they tracked it all down. I never missed a day. And the times that I did get sick, it was because it was like Friday. Like, it was, and then even if I was kind of semi-sick, I always went. Yeah. And I felt like that was just my duty to be a really good student. And I'll say that I don't think that I was just really academically smart. It's just I tried.
Yeah.
Like, I had no choice. My back was against the wall. I had to succeed. I had to get the good grades otherwise. And so I would just pour myself into study.
Yeah.
And not to say that I comprehended a lot of stuff. I became actually a really good test taker is all I really began to do.
So you're not a doctor. So what happened with that?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I was groomed. I was groomed and everything. And so then right into college, that was my only choice. By the way, interestingly enough, let me actually tell you a story. So when we came to America, I was actually born in 1972, but they had said that if any of your children is above 5 years old, reduce the age down.
Yeah.
Reduce the age down on paper so that they could actually start kindergarten. So as a result, on documents, my birthday is August 26, 1975.
I was going to say that. I saw you said 1972 and in the bio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
So 1975 is actually on document on paper. So I literally started kindergarten at the age of 5.
Wow.
But biologically, I'm November 23rd, 1972. And I just found that out 10 years ago when my mom told me.
Wow.
So because of that situation, what's really interesting is that so I started literally at 5 years old on paper and all that kind of stuff. I skipped 5th grade because I was so smart. And then I graduated high school at the age of 16.
How insane.
So I was in college at the age of 16 without those preparatory classes. I just was young.
Wow.
So I'm going through this whole entire academia for med school, just completely groomed and everything. And I took the MCAT, got accepted to medical school, and I decided not to go.
Wow. What was that thought? I mean,
what happened? What?
I just had this weird feeling. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be a horrible doctor. And so either I'm going to kill somebody or I'm going to kill myself, really.
Wow.
And this is not the life for me. And I can't do it for my mom. And then I actually came out of the closet at the same time too. So that was just horrible.
I can't imagine.
I was like jabbing my mom. It's like 1-2 punch. And she just was.
Oh my goodness.
So
God, it was hard.
Ooh, I'm feeling you right now. So
yeah,
throughout this entire journey, you probably felt like you were living somebody else's life because you were going a path that you knew wasn't for you and you weren't being your true self.
Totally. Yeah.
So when that happened,
it was like I borrowed a human. Like I went to the store and I purchased this facade, this mannequin, and then I lived vicariously through that front.
Wow.
Because I was never me during the whole entire process. I had to conceal myself. I had to put so many masks against me. I was an Asian kid living in a white world. I was a gay boy living in a straight world. I mean, like all that kind of stuff, all the internal fights. So trying to succeed in real life, but in inside was the worst mental battle ever.
I can't imagine. And just listening to you, I can tell you that there are a lot of listeners watching this that at some point in their life, I mean, we all do it. We live this facade, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that this is not who we truly are. Some of us are stuck in a relationship knowing that this is not the relationship we're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or in a career, knowing that that's not where we're supposed to be. And for you to have the courage to come out, to speak your truth, and to the woman that you adore and the woman that you love,
that
knowing,
sacrificed everything.
Yes, that you're going to break her heart. Like, I can't imagine. So I applaud you for being strong enough to do what you had to do in order to fulfill, your life, your journey.
Just before we were, when I was getting ready for this, I was just kind of thinking of I don't know, I just having those thoughts. And I was thinking about like choosing a career and then kind of talking to the kids about choosing a career. And a lot of times like people or parents, when you have a kid, they put all this like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? And it's like, like thinking about myself, like nobody chose my career for me.
Right. So
I went into something that I loved, that I found super interesting. But even when you do that, as you get older, I mean, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, you think you love that. You think you understand what you're getting into, but you don't understand the big picture of everything.
No.
And then once you've been in that career for a long time, you might be like, this is cool, but it's not exactly what I thought. Or I didn't realize that there was all this other stuff attached to it too. So having to pick a career, I mean, having all that pressure, from your mom to be a doctor, like I can't even imagine. Like it's hard enough as it is.
It's not just a career; it's actually your identity. Like you had to say who you are, declare that, and then live that truth for the rest of your life. And there's no way to change that at all because people don't change.
Yeah,
right.
You can't change. You're not supposed to change.
So what happened after you gave your mom?
Notice.
Yes.
Well, first, before, when was that? Like, how old were you when you gave your mom the news?
I was 20 years old.
Okay, so you were 20.
But I had finished undergraduate, ready to go to medical school.
Wow.
So at 20, you gave her the double whammy.
Yeah. And I got kicked out of the house.
Wow.
I got kicked out for, it was just too much, right? 1-2 punch. And she's like, I can't take this. You're not even my child. Who are you?
Wow.
And what really solidified for her, let me share with you this story. When I was in 3rd grade, my mom went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told my mom, do not take care of the 3rd son. He's going to be a nobody. He's going to be a burden to society. He's going to be a menace, if anything. He'll actually get married and leave you and never do anything at all. He's going to just be really like your biggest shame. And so my mom came home and she told me what the fortune teller said. And to add insult to injury, she said, if I had known that you were going to turn out like that, I would have laid an egg and ate it. And Sonja, Miguel, this didn't surface until January when I actually was doing some deep dive work, and then that came out. And now that I look back, the reason why I worked so hard was to prove that fortune teller wrong.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Can you imagine? Like I had this stress of like someone telling me I'm not anything, and so I had to become somebody for my mom. And then when I dropped out of medical school, and then came out gay, the fortune teller's fruition came true for my mom.
Yeah.
And so then she felt like, what was the point of me taking care of this kid for all this time? I should have just laid an egg right then and there and ate it, right? And she couldn't handle it. And so I got kicked out and I was on my own, and I've been on my own since then.
Have you healed that relation? Yes.
It took my mom 10 years before I actually spoke to her again. And sadly, my mom and I have a very estranged relationship because she still would like want me to go back to medical school and go back and be married, really, to have children. Yeah. So as a result of that, every single time that we get together, there's just always that rhetoric and that narrative over and over. And it took me a long time to actually remove myself from that without feeling guilty.
Wow.
So I limit the amount of time that I have with my mom, and I love her from a distance without making her feel wrong, because I just know she's doing what she does and I can't control any of that. But I can't be in that environment anymore.
Yeah.
Because it hurts me too much and it hurts her too much.
Wow.
Gotcha. Hey, at what point did you know that you were different, that you were gay, that there was something that wasn't quite like some of the other kids in school?
That's a great question. I love this question. I knew if I could really be cognizant right at kindergarten.
Really?
Like if there was any kind of knowledge of sexuality or anything like that, it would have been, I remember Neil Johnson, blonde blue-eyed kid.
Watch out, Neil.
Right, oh my that's God. Hilarious.
Oh man.
He was so beautiful to me, and I didn't understand why. So when you're saying, when did you know that you were gay? I didn't know that I was gay because I didn't know what the word gay was. I didn't even hear the word gay. So none of that existed. I didn't have any modeling knowledge of that at all. Wow. I just knew that I had this thing for a boy, and I was more fascinated. And so when they were talking about girl cooties and boy cooties, like, I want the boy cooties. I want the girl cooties. Right? And it was just always this fascination, and I couldn't understand what it was. But I knew from the get-go that I had this thing. And I was so scared of being discovered. I was so scared of being found out that I had this evil thought. I felt like I was broken and evil.
Wow.
What age did you know you knew?
What's that?
What age did you know you knew?
When you were like, oh, this is what this is.
This is, yes.
I think it would be high school when I actually found out the word gay and all the homosexuality was when I'm like, okay, that's what I am.
Yeah.
And how did you feel?
But I didn't know. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And how did you feel when you recognized that, when you pinpointed it and you said, this is me? How did that make you feel?
Sick. Knowing that now that there's a term, and then at that point in time, my knowledge of it was actually in the medical books, right? So it's like, it was very clinical and it was very from a psychiatric perspective, that's all the knowledge, because this is the day before internet. It's like I couldn't Google this stuff.
So
That's
when
true.
I mean, if you're looking stuff up, is it like a medical condition, kind of?
Yeah, I would go to the library, and I mean, it's just, these days it's like I was like looking around to see if anyone would find out, right? And then I would go into like a sexuality book or what's happening to my body and all that kind of stuff. And I actually ran across a book by Linda Madras. I still remember this.
I know,
like crazy.
how do you remember?
Linda Madras. When something is that connected to you, you just never forget. And her book was called "What's Happening to My Body," and in one section was actually a section about homosexuality. She says some people are born in a way that they are attracted to the same sex, girls liking girls and boys liking boys. And this is what it is. And it was the first time that she said, it's a natural thing. It's a healthy thing. And I was battling with it because I was like, all right, she's saying that this is healthy, but everyone else is saying this is a bad thing. Who's right? Who do I listen to?
Yeah.
And then I go into this whole entire rhetoric. And if I can be so bold, I was actually molested, sexually abused, and also raped. And as a kid, I thought that I brought that onto myself. Can you imagine? I was thinking the evil thought. I was bringing this in.
Wow.
And that's what
so
most
when it
kids...
happened, I felt even more disgusted with myself than anything. It didn't feel pleasurable. It wasn't like this feels right and oh my gosh, I'm getting what I want. It was like, you're an evil kid.
Oh,
You caused these adult men to do this to you.
Wow.
That's weird.
Yeah. Man,
it's a wild trip.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure
my heart's beating right now. My heart's beating right now, just like gonna be living that as a child, because I'm like going back into my 8-year-old kid. I'm just going, wow, I can see all that trepidation.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, what do you see? I mean, at that time, times were really different, especially when it comes to, being gay. And since then, we've shifted into like a completely different time today. How are things different? Like if you were to come out today as an 8-year-old, as opposed to back in the day, how do you think that would be different with today's times?
Oh my gosh, radically different. I'll tell you why, because, when I came out, I got kicked out. My whole entire family shunned me and everything. And as a result of me coming out, I actually paved the way for my youngest cousin to come out. And he finally came out, I believe now about 12 years ago, he came out.
How old was he?
He was 24, I believe. Yeah. He was 24 when he came out. And my whole entire family threw him a freaking gay pride of his own.
Get the Your mom was
like, what the hell?
Party.
Let's have a party.
Celebration.
Like, where the hell were you guys when I was 20?
I know. I'm just like,
really?
What in gay glitter hell just happened?
What in gay glitter hell? Hashtag what in gay glitter hell?
Gay glitter hell. I'm like, you're having all this on my blood. I slit my wrist for you.
I paved the way.
I paved the way. You owe me.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
And it was. I mean, like they were so receptive and everything, and I lived in that agony. And even in college, throughout college, it was an agony. I mean, get this: when I was in college, I was the president of the Asian Cultural Center, the Asian American Student Cultural Center. And then secretly, I was also the president of the GLBTQ community. I was not out yet at this point in time. So I held 2 different office positions, right? It was at the student union. And so the Asian Association was kitty corner down here in the bottom. The GLBT was on the 3rd floor upstairs, completely recluse. And they had like curtains drawn and everything. Like you had to really go like deep dive in.
Yeah.
And so all of our meetings were at night, because this is a time when it was just not accepted yet. I mean, even though you had this organization, it wasn't like free and up there and accepting. So it was very like, it was like undercover under the basement without being under the basement.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would run the thing in the morning at the Asian Cultural Center. Then at night, I would live this other life. I lived this double life forever and a day. It was so bipolar.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I actually managed to do that, because it's very, very tough to live two completely, utterly separate lives. And the only time that I could really be myself was when I went into the gay bars.
Wow.
When I could let my hair down, let my face down, and now all of a sudden I could be myself. But guess how I was in myself at the gay bar? I had to dress up in drag.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because I was so afraid that one of my friends from the Asian Student Culture Center, somebody from high school, would actually happen to be at the gay bar at the same time that I was, and they would discover me.
Wow.
How ridiculous
I can't
was my
imagine.
mind, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if they're there at the gay bar,
Like, hey.
aren't they gay too?
Yeah.
Right? But it wasn't like that. It was like, I was so scared of being discovered. And so I was introduced to drag. I'm like, in drag, I can be that persona. I can be the real Daniel Phuong underneath a costume. It's almost like being Superman, the realness. Like you don on this, and this is who your identity really is. It's not the Clark Kent. It's the Superman.
You know what? I was talking to one of the kids. We were talking about the interview that we were going to be doing today. And one of the things that we brought up was some of your outfits and the things that you wear. I'm like, look.
Love it.
Because we showed our daughter a picture of you in the suit. And she was like, oh, he looks nice. He looks good. And I told her, I was like, he looks like very, it's a very, not to say like professional, but it was just a regular suit. Yeah. Formal suit. Mm-hmm. And I was like, but he has, like, we've seen him at some of the events with some outfits that he stands out, and you look great in them.
Yes.
But that seems like maybe it's got some of the influence. Like you're just comfortable in your own skin, doing your thing. It doesn't matter who's watching. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I have a picture of you and I with that outfit where you're
with
all
feathers
and it's so beautiful, but you rock it. You really do. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to you, because you are real, you're authentic, you're vulnerable. It's like you know
what you see is what you get.
That's right. And if you ask a question, you're going to get the answer. So be careful with the question that you ask.
Yeah. You know what's really funny is just like, I lived in the shadows for so long. And then it took me so long to actually own up to who I am, came to accept the fact that I'm gay and I'm Asian and all this kind of stuff. And so when I grew into that skin, I'm just like, I'm going to go out and show the world and give back the child that was actually shoved away. I'm going to put this kid on the pedestal in the spotlight. And so I initially would dress up as bodacious as possible in order to get the attention. So I thought, but get this, okay? So I'm showing up in all of my regalia, wanting the spotlight was what I thought I did. But it wasn't until maybe 3 years ago when I realized it wasn't that I wanted the spotlight. I was the spotlight.
Yeah.
Because I was letting my own light shine. I did not dress to impress. I dressed to express.
Ooh, that's so good.
I would definitely say that.
How I appear in real life with all this was just like an expression of like living this vibrant life. And so I became the spotlight, giving other people permission to let their own light shine. And I'm actually writing a book about that.
That is so good.
Awesome.
I love that.
Well, we definitely...
so using your inner light for good.
That's right.
Yeah, we definitely want to talk about that. But before we move on to the next thing, we want to make sure that we give out your plugs. Where can people find you? I know you have your TikTok has been blowing up.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
we're going to get into
the
that.
beginning of, in the last year and a half or whatever, like you're
just 1 year.
Yeah, your profile has been
11 months
taken off.
Actually. Well, 11 months. Yeah, I opened up my TikTok on January of this year. And I was kind of doing the do, just like the trends that everyone was doing because that's what you were supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And one day I just got really sick of it. It's like, this is so not me. I'm just gonna tell the world who I am. And so I opened up the camera, didn't know what I was saying. I was like, hey, I just said, hey, TikTok family, can I share with you my story? And I just opened up. And from that moment on, I just went on and told more and revealed a little bit more about my life and my story. And it just grew and grew and grew. And it wasn't until, was it June? Yeah, June, when I shared the story of how when we were kids, my mom would sit us at the dinner table and she'd take one chopstick and she would break it in half. And then she'd take 5 chopsticks and she'd put it together and she'd try to break it and she couldn't. And that was actually the fable of separate, you are weak and can easily broken, but together you are strong and invincible. So the 5 was actually the 3 kids, well, her 3 kids and the niece and the nephew, the 5 children that she reared. And so I shared that story and it just blew up. Like I've always had like just hundreds of views. All of a sudden this goes into like 30,000 views. I went to sleep, I woke up, and that's when I actually had this vision of like chopsticks connection, K-I-N, like kinship.
Yeah.
That's so
and
good.
My whole purpose now, let me tell you, my whole entire, like everything has made sense because I've been doing Facebook Lives for a long time. And every single time that I end my video, I always say, my wish for you is that you decide to live powerfully, authentically, and unapologetically, right? And so here is actually where Chopsticks Connection came in. I'm just like, you know what it is? I was the broken kid. I was the kid that was shoved out by society, shoved out by my family. I'm going to create a family, a global family where people can be seen, heard, and loved. The things that I wanted, I was going to give that. A safe home where they can be unapologetically themselves and they can live their true, authentic life. And I feel like now more than ever, I have products and services that are actually in alignment with that. And it's just all coming together. But it took a journey. I mean, it took a 49-year journey to get here.
I love it.
I don't know anybody.
And it's exciting.
I love it.
I don't know anybody that's listening that would not. I mean, to me, I would want to be a part of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So where can people find you? So it's Chopsticks Connection at
Chopsticks
on TikTok.
Connection on TikTok. So Chopsticks with an X, not a C-K-S. So CHOPSTIXKINNECTION. And then they can find me on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram that much, but I'm more active in Facebook and more so now in LinkedIn. So that's where they're finding me. And I hope you guys are my source of inspiration. You are my model because, you have your podcast and like, I feel like I'm actually being pushed to do a podcast too, because most of my Chopsticks Connection family, they're always like, you need to do a podcast. We love your voice. We love your voice. You need to do guided meditations. You need to do audiobooks. You need to do everything.
Yeah, I can see it.
And so I can see that too for the first time. And so YouTube is probably coming as well. And I don't do it for the fame and I don't do it for the notoriety. I actually do it from a place of, this is how I'm going to help the masses. This is how I'm actually going to have a big global reach, because as a kid, I just knew that I was meant for greatness. I just didn't know what that looked like. Yeah. And it was never about fame and money. Has never been for me. It's like, how do I make an impact? How do I make the space that I hold in this world better? And that when I leave it, it continues, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. Like Lisa Nichols would say. No.
Yep.
Yes.
So make
Did
sure
you see the blessing that she gave me on
dude? Yes. We're going to get into, I mean, you're on fire. You're on fire.
On fire. So make sure you guys follow Daniel on Instagram at Daniel_Phuong and Chopsticks Connection, like he mentioned on TikTok. If you guys would go to oppositesattractpodcast.com, you guys can see all of our social media there. You can follow us there. You can watch the podcast there. You can listen to it there. And also when you go to our website, you'll see the support the show tab. And when you click on that, it'll take you to our Amazon link. Anything that you purchase through that link, it's the holiday season. If you're doing your last minute shopping, you guys do it through that link and it'll help out the show. And you'll also see a link to Trust Inc. And Trust Inc. is?
We are a nationwide mobile notary and signing agency. So if you are in the process of selling, purchasing, or refinancing your home, you can request Trust Inc. to be your signing agency.
Awesome, man. We're also affiliates with Pinwheel, which is a smartphone for kids. It's the best smartphone for kids out there. It doesn't have access to any of the social media, the internet. All the apps that are available on this phone are picked specifically by counselors, by therapists that have the kids' best interest in mind. The phone and all the apps only makes the phone a tool that makes kids more productive. And we can see everything that's happening.
Yes.
We have the call logs, text message logs to make sure that the kids are safe, because obviously social media and the internet is something that hasn't been, it's been around for a little while, hasn't been around long enough for us to really understand the impact that it has on our little kids, because we can't handle it.
Right.
So if you guys would like to check out Pinwheel and get 10% off of a Pinwheel phone, use promo code OAP10. That's OAPTEN, all spelled out, all in caps, at pinwheel.com, and you'll get 10% off.
Yes, and buy me a coffee.
And buy me a coffee. Go for it, babe.
Or in Miguel's case, buy him a beer.
Buy me some whiskey. But if you guys go to buymeacoffee.com/oppositepod, you guys can buy us a coffee there. Just like Sonia and I have mentioned in the past, if we met you guys in person, we would love to sit down and talk to you. If we met you at a Starbucks, we would love to buy you a coffee and hang out and catch up. And if you guys would like to do that for us virtually, you guys can go to buymeacoffee.com/oppositepod.
There you go.
Yeah. So, Daniel, is there any contact information where people can find you, or the best way to get a hold of you?
Is it through social media?
Is it TikTok, Instagram?
Social media. I don't know if I should give out my phone number. I'm totally cool with that too. But social media probably is.
Yes.
That's probably
my phone number is everywhere.
Yeah, you'll find it.
He's like, just look me up. No.
Right. It's not at prison cells. That's not the only place that it's not.
Oh man.
But I think I'm very easy.
I'm very easy.
Googled,
I'm very
not
easy
cheap.
to find.
I'm not cheap.
Easy but not cheap.
Easy but not cheap.
Right. It takes more than coffee.
Hey, that's a new shirt.
Easy but not cheap.
Easy but not cheap, right?
Right.
Hashtag
It's like,
easy but not cheap.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we talked.
Yeah, I'm very accessible, because actually, if you Google my name, it's like there's not that many Daniel Phuongs out there.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about your past. We talked about your challenges, past traumas, and you mentioned how you've been able to heal from the past traumas, and now you are just, man, you're living,
kicking ass and taking names.
You're in your space. And why don't you share with us your past event that you had? Like, get into it.
So crazy. Like I have to pinch myself, so often. So I've been in a 1-year coaching program with Eric Worre, and Eric Worre is like the godfather of network marketing. And his goal and his mission in life is actually to teach people to become professional network marketers and to really elevate the standards of network marketing, because oftentimes this profession that we're in has bad reps.
Right.
And it's bad reps because of probably the companies and the products and the product claims and the money
misunderstanding.
claims.
Right.
And a lot of times a lot of misunderstandings. And a lot of times it actually comes from the field that people actually get into network marketing, over promise, over everything, exaggerating income claims, exaggerating results. And so he's like, let's just clean this profession up so that people can actually respect us more, just like a franchise.
So you decided to invest in yourself.
I decided to invest in myself, because, you've got to grow yourself before anything else happens.
That's right.
And a lot of the growth, Sonia, Miguel, is that it's actually in unlearning more than learning.
Yeah.
So good.
Very true.
There's more magic in unlearning the things. So it's not success, and a great life isn't predicated on what you don't know, but more so what you know that just ain't so.
Ooh.
Write that
Can I say that again?
Yeah.
Yep. Say it again.
Success in life is not predicated on what you don't know, but rather what you know that just ain't so. Because we're constantly thinking, well, if I knew other things, I would do better things. It's like, no, there's no such thing as new antiques.
Yeah.
All the knowledge exists out there. Everything that you need to know to live an abundant, great life exist in you already.
Yes.
You just have to tap into that.
So good.
But as you were growing up, society is saying all these things, and then all of a sudden you get slapped with all these labels and rhetorics and paradigms and philosophies. And so it takes you to actually unmove all of that to really find your own truth.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time. And so this whole entire year, I was going in a deep dive excavation of like finding out, like unlearning the things, the things like I'm not good enough, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too gay, I'm too flamboyant. Like all of that just was like reject, take all of that, right? Don't talk to strangers. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
No,
So
but
true.
it's paper, and paper came from trees, right?
Yeah.
So many other things. And I found out that there is so much unlearning, but then there's many paths to truths as well. And you have to find your own truth. Can I do a demonstration with you guys?
Yeah.
It's really radically profound.
Let's do it. You guys got to watch this on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you can see it.
Yes.
So when I found out that when you change the way you look at things, soon the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, soon the things you look at change. And so I had to rewire the way that I actually saw life through the existing lenses of paradigms that I was actually used to, right? So I'm putting on fresh goggles to relook at life. So let me show you this. In the context of an alphabet, what are you looking at?
A V.
Yeah.
In the context of numbers, what are you looking at?
2.
5.
Oh, that's interesting. 2 and a 5. In the context of hippies, what are you looking at?
Peace.
Friends.
In the context of an animal, what are you looking at?
I thought
Rabbit.
antlers or deer.
Antlers or deer. So let me ask you a question. Did what you look at physically change?
No.
What changed?
Our
How
thoughts.
you looked at that.
Our perception of it.
Your perception creates your reality. But isn't it interesting that when I asked for a letter, you both said B, but when I said numbers, one said 2 and one was 5. Who's right?
Probably Sonia.
One said friends. One said friends. One said friends. The other one said hippie.
Peas. Yeah.
One
peas.
said antler. The other one said rabbit. Who's right?
Yeah.
What if no one was right and yet both were right? Blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's true for you. If it's true for you, it's true for you. If it's true for you, it's true for you.
Right.
And then, so I realized that now there's so many truths. Another example. Consider for a moment that the number 5 is the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you agree with me that 2 plus 3 is 5?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that 10 divided by 2 is 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you agree with me that 2.5 times 2 is 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you agree with me that the square root of 25 is 5?
Yes.
Yes.
So which is the real pathway to 5?
Yeah. There's many paths.
All of them.
Yeah.
There's many paths. So when I realized that there's many paths, all these paths,
Yeah.
then the only question is, what path is true for me? Is it the 2 plus 3? Is it the 2.5 plus times 2? Is it 10 divided by 2?
Yeah.
Because I can't take all
That is
paths.
so
Because if you
good.
take all, you can't split yourself. You
Right.
can't split yourself and take 10
That
paths
is
at the
so
same time,
good.
right?
Right.
So you can only find what is in alignment.
With you.
And when you find that, you will actually always get to truth. Period.
And
Dang.
mic drop.
That is awesome. I love it.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that radical?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Wow.
And then it's just like, all right, what's your truth is the only question,
yeah.
not what's the truth. Because there's many ways to truth. So
And I feel
that's
that.
where I'm working on.
Yep. And that is so good because I feel that in order to find that, in order to find your truth, you have to do the hard work, right?
Yeah.
Like you have
You
to
do.
go back and you have to, it's like you got to cleanse your spirit. You got to cleanse in order to reach that. And so many people are not willing to do that work. And some people don't even know that they have to do that work in order to break free, in order to find their truth, their freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so many people are looking for, well, once I find out all the facts and the information, I'll do the work and then I'll find the truth. But the reality is that you have to do the work and then you'll find the truth.
Yeah.
Man.
Because it's just, it's doing the work. And what does the work mean? It means that you actually cocoon yourself just like a caterpillar, and you remove all the noise and everything that you have ever been taught and will be taught in the surroundings. And then you just listen.
That's right.
And then you actually pull things out, and then you look at them and you confront them. Is this true for me? Is this true? And I had to ask myself a lot of questions because I was stuck in a world in the past. I lied so much to protect my identity, right? I made false things that carried into my adult life. And so I was exaggerating and lying a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Lying to myself, lying to my friends, lying about my success, lying about everything. And I looked at myself, I'm like, you're just a liar, Daniel Phuong. Time to like undo that crap.
Yeah.
And that's when the breakdown happened. And I came into mush, and then I reassembled myself. And what you're seeing before you is actually a journey of like 5 years of really deep, excruciating work. And you know what? Transformation is ugly.
Oof.
It is not pretty.
Yeah.
Transformation and change is very different. People think that they're the same thing. You know what change is? Change is like you go into the closet and you grab out a new outfit and you just put it on and you've changed, right? But a caterpillar does not change into a butterfly. In fact, a caterpillar spins the cocoon, it breaks itself down into a soupy mush, and then it takes that soupy mush of protein and reassembles itself and transforms itself into a butterfly. So the caterpillar had to die for the butterfly to truly exist. And they're not the same species.
Yeah.
They're not the same person, right?
Yep.
And so in transformation, you have to do the work and dig deep and break that all down and then reassemble all the stuff and then emerge as your true self. And when you do that, it's so magical and so liberating that we were talking about. It's like, I can breathe. And because I know that I was good enough to be born, I'm good enough, period. I no longer seek validation from the world anymore. I'm just like, I don't need anyone's approval.
Yeah.
I was approved. That's why I'm here. That's why I chose to be here.
That's right.
So your opinion, thank you, but no need apply. No need apply.
Yeah. You know when you
wait,
just...
not.
No need.
What did they say? No need apply.
Something like that. I don't know.
Something.
But you were saying like the caterpillar and being inside that cocoon, and how the caterpillar pretty much dies in order for the butterfly to be born. I was just kind of thinking that like when you first realize that you have to do that work, right? I mean, I saw it with you, and you start like what you were saying, Daniel, is like I'm gonna figure all this stuff out, and then I'm just gonna tuck it away, and then that'll be done. That'll be done, and I can just kind of move on with my life, and success is coming, right? But I think when you start to figure out this is gonna get worse before it gets better.
Totally. Oh my gosh, it got worse. Oh,
you know what I mean? Because at first it's like, you know what? I know I have work to do, and then once you start the work, you're like, oh shit. Yeah.
You know, when you start the work, what happens is the universe actually throws everything against you, right? Not to keep you out, but actually to see how bad you want it.
Yeah.
Do you want it like your last breath? And what I found out in my journey up to now is that sometimes life, spirit, universe gives you taps and you don't listen.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a punch and you don't listen. And it's like whacks you over and you don't listen. And finally it just says, you know what? It's time. And it shoves you off of that ledge of the comfort zone. And that happened to me 5 years ago when my world shattered. My ex of 16 years ended up cheating on me in the most horrific way that you could ever imagine. And I found myself at just the lowest of low. And I'm just like going, do I die or do I reinvent myself? What are my choices here? What are my choices? What am I going to do? Relive the same years over and over and over and call it a life, or go after it? And that was when I began that work.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I mean, I went from 207 pounds to 142 pounds in a year. I transformed myself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Like, I just became a radically different person. And I have written a beautiful dedication to him, saying that what he did was actually necessary. What he did was seemingly a selfish act, but it truly was a selfless act disguised as a selfish act, because he had to kill the relationship in order to kill me, who I was being in the relationship, in order to give birth to the new me now.
Wow.
It all had to happen. And so instead of actually being resentful for 16 years and 4 years of infidelity and everything, it was a blessing.
It's like we were talking before.
This newly transformed Daniel Phuong wouldn't
right.
have come out of this work.
So true.
Wow.
So
you
true.
know, and I love, for the first time, I'll tell you guys, for the first time, not only do I love myself, but not from an ego perspective, but like, I love me.
Yeah.
But I also like me. There's a difference between loving yourself and liking yourself. I like me. When I look in the mirror, I'm like, I like you, kid.
Yeah. That's
right?
awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've been
and
going at this.
Good.
Yeah, go for it.
And yeah, and it feels good. And as I love myself, and I think that this is why you actually see the reason why people are so attracted to me is that because I know who I am, I know who I belong to, I know what my purpose and my mission, and I live so unapologetically that as a result, I give every other person the ability to do the same. And I'm like, you can get rid of the mask and you can just be your true, authentic self, and I'm going to love on you. I'm going to fan your flame. I am going to be the wind beneath your wings, because no one was that for me. And my purpose is to be that for someone else. I'm going to light your candle, girl. You know?
I love it.
Because a candle loses nothing in lighting another candle.
That's right.
That's
Be
right.
the light. Be
Love
the
it.
light.
Love
Be
it.
the light.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because this world is too dark. You know, we're living in, you know, it's dark, and we need the light workers.
Yeah.
And more
we need
and
all
more
of us
coming
to actually
out.
we need more people to step into their greatness, claim their magic, and shine their light.
That's right.
Yep.
Because here's the reality, y'all. Here's the reality. Let me get real. In each of us is a light. It could be a pilot light. It could be a night light. It could be a flashlight. It could be a headlight. It could be a spotlight. We all have light. The moon does never compare itself to the sun, because if it compares itself to the sun, it will always feel less than. But the sun comes out in the day and the moon comes out at night. And when it's complete darkness, you need just a little pilot light to light up the world. So your light is meant to shine when it's meant to shine. And you shouldn't compare your light to anyone else's light, because all lights are created equally, in the sense that it actually will shine the light when it's meant to shine.
That is awesome.
And
when I got that, I'm just like,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't believe it's been
so good.
I can't believe we've been going for an hour already.
No,
it seems like we've been talking for like 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
But before we get out of here, Daniel, I wanted to ask you, growing up, you know, when you were a kid, and you know, this podcast, we focus a lot on parenting. and marriage. But as a kid growing up, times are different now. But how could
What are some tips?
Yeah, what is something that, like, to be able to encourage or support a kid that is gay, that is growing up?
That is
like,
different.
It's just because I think, like we talked about before, nowadays it's a lot more accepted than it was back in the day, but it's still something that kind of like the internet and everything else that we have to learn. It's still kind of in its infancy in acceptance and all that kind of stuff. And we've talked about it before, and to me, however the kids turn out in the future, I'm going to love them no matter what. It doesn't, like, honestly, I can say it doesn't make a difference to me. Love is love. They are my kids. And there's a lot of people that feel the same way. So how can a parent be like a safe place, like, for their kid when they're, when they're gay?
Well, you're asking me two very different questions. One is pertaining to the kid and one is to the parents. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me speak to the parents first. I know that a lot of parents think that your child is that you gave birth to this child and it's your child. The reality is that it's the universe's child.
Yep.
And you were just bestowed on that to provide a safe haven to the child. And your job as a parent is to create a loving, nurturing environment so that that kid becomes the best version of itself.
Yeah.
Because implanted in that child is all the gifts and all the tools and all the resources to be able to go out and become the person it's meant to be in order to serve the world for a higher cause, because we're not in this thing together. I mean, we're not in this separately. Life is not about paying bills and dying. Life is not about looking good. Life is not about like the appearance and the Jones and keeping up with that.
That's right.
Life is actually just what brings you joy and how can you bring joy to the world. So love on your child. If there's things that you don't understand, fear comes from not understanding. Mm-hmm. But when you are faced with that and you suspect that a child is, number one, do not push it onto the child. Just say, I'm always here until the child is ready to come to that. Because if you actually push it, it's very harsh for the child. And then seek help. There's organizations out there called PFLAG, Parents of Friends of Lesbians, Gays, Parents of Lesbians and Gays.
Okay.
And there's tons of resources where you can actually seek understanding. So if you actually understand, you'll be a little bit better. From the child's perspective, let me tell you, you are born whole, perfect, and complete. There's nothing wrong with you at all. And if you trust in yourself and whatever that feeling is, go with it and know that if you actually put a lot of mask on yourself and you're concealing constantly, especially for older teens, you actually rob the world of yourself. Because when you are not you, the people who are loving on you is not really loving on you. They're living a facade of you. And so you cheat the world, but you also cheat yourself as well.
Wow.
And so live your authentic truth all the time. I know it's hard. But you live in a society right now that's very different from when I came up. When I came out, there was no resources. There was nowhere to turn to. You have family. You'll always have an aunt, an uncle. And if you don't, there's organizations out there that's going to provide a safe haven for you. You'll never be homeless or out in the street like I was. It's a very different time.
You're one of the ones that paved the way. Like we were saying before, right?
Yes.
I did.
I got one more question before we get out of here. Is there anything that you wanted to ask?
No, I think.
So real quick, I wanted to know, like, what has in your life, in your career, like, what has been something that has been like the most impactful where it affected somebody else? Because I'm sure you've had some moments. Yeah. Can you share something like that?
In my life or in my career?
Whatever was most important for you.
I think the journey of self-love. So when I was in my 16-year relationship and then he ended up cheating because I got fat and ugly, I went on a revenge diet. That revenge diet within 3 months became a self-love journey. And when I began to love myself, I began to treat myself just a little bit better. And as I was loving myself, I no longer seek validation from the outside. And as a result, no one was a threat to me anymore.
Yeah.
So it's not that we have enemies, but it's actually the inner me that we have to conquer more than anything else. Because once we defeat the inner me, we defeat everyone out there.
Yeah.
So if you love yourself, you treat yourself better. If you love yourself, you'll actually begin to love other people more as well, which is actually where I am right now. And then it transcends to just actually loving the world more. Wow. And then from there, it actually just transcends to loving life more. And awesome. So if I could say that the thing that has been most impactful is the journey of self-love, because it actually was the stone that caused the ripple effect to live a very great life, a powerful life.
And by doing that, it shows other people that they can do it too.
That's right.
Which is awesome. We definitely appreciate you being on the show. It's been I can already say this is one of our favorite podcasts. This has been incredible, and we definitely have to have you back on.
Yes, for sure.
Make sure you guys follow
I'd
Daniel.
Be honored.
Yeah, make sure you follow Daniel on Instagram at Daniel_Phuong. Chopstick Connection, Chopsticks with an X, ChopsTixKINNECTION on TikTok, which is blowing up. Make sure you guys follow him. And if you guys want to follow us, you can go to oppositesattractpodcast.com. You guys can follow us there, and you can find all of our social media and everything there. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. And thank you for watching Opposites Attract Podcast,
where we get better
together.
Bye.